Well, hi guys, welcome back to Linda's Pantry. And today I am canning um, navy beans. My gosh, I've already done this take 3 times. Navy beans. And I'm using, we're using a fall canning book just to refresh memory. I know how long it takes for beans and all those things, but I did an overnight soak. So I soaked 2 pounds of navy beans that were sorted through, soaked them overnight. It's now mid-morning the next day, and I'm going to can these up because tonight I'm using 2 or 3 jars from last year that I canned up, and you can do anything you want with them when you open the jar. Tonight we're going to make a Boston baked bean with them. How? Oh my gosh, if you want to see that video, you need to let me know. Okay, so we've soaked the beans overnight. Now we need to cook the beans. That's if you have a quick soak. But I need to cook the beans for 30 minutes, and then I'm going to pack them hot into the jar, leaving 1 inch of headspace with a half a teaspoon of salt per pint jar. And we'll process these, let it vent and all that, and process them for 75 minutes. Is that right? Yes. So, there is a Boston baked bean recipe, but I don't want to be pigeonholed into that because sometimes I use these beans in a chili or in a ham and bean soup. If I dummy them up to make Boston beans, that's all I've got is Boston baked beans. So in this pot of water, I have rinsed my beans and they're ready to put on the stove, and we'll get this going. So I'll be back after these have simmered for 30 minutes and we're ready to start jarring them up. So I'm going to get my jars tempered. They're nice and clean out of the dishwasher. I'm going to put them in a sink of hot water and let them really get warm, and that way I'm not going to shock my jars. I also will be warming up my 4 jars, lids and rings. Well, not the rings, but the lids will be warmed up because that's what it says to do on the box. So let's get to it. Hey guys, it is time to can. And I've got my hot jars, and I took advantage of other equipment I actually have for canning, and that's my steam canner. It does a beautiful job to keep your jars hot. I put my bowl of water with my lids in there, and it's perfect. Okay, so we're going to get these hot jars, and we're going to grab some beans. I've got a slotted spoon here. And I'm hoping I can't remember how many beans I really need for 7 pints. We're going to fill this up to, I don't want it quite that full, up to the shoulder when it starts curving. And these are regular mouth jars. So I'm going to take a good spoon out of there. I've washed, inspected, and my jars are hot. These beans will continue to expand after you've canned them even. Okay, so this is from 2023. And I have some from 2024 here. Right? Can't tell much difference. They still have plenty of liquid in there, but literally don't overfill them. It says to 1 inch of headspace, but you're going to end up with a big old dry sludge of beans instead of having like when you open a jar from the store. So literally, I would say that's really hot. Less than 3/4 of the way full. About 2/3 full. How about that? We'll just say 2/3 full. I'd rather that than have a dry, just disgusting thing of beans going on. Perfect. Okay. That looks about right. Maybe a couple more. It's Tetris. Bean Tetris. Okay. Then I'm going to put a half a teaspoon of salt in each jar. And it doesn't have to be exact. This is not for food preservation. This is strictly for flavor, to enhance the flavor of the beans, because they're pretty bland. So then we're going to go ahead and get an inch of headspace at this point. And we'll debubble. Perfect. And we're still at a little bit less than an inch. Get that right up there. Perfect. And, oh, maybe a little bit more. And this is just plain water. You could use broth, but I think it's a waste of money. Number one, you're wasting product that isn't necessary. Okay, I believe I've got an inch of headspace on that one. Debubble. Debubbling to get all those air pockets out. It's important because you want to make sure that you have the correct headspace. Let's say if I didn't debubble and it's already sucking up that water. If I didn't debubble, then I literally could have a big air bubble pop up, change my headspace. But it is truly, if you do forget, it's not the end of the world. Once in a while I forget, and I thought, oh no, or I'm watching footage, and I go, I don't believe I wiped or I debubbled that jar, and everything comes out just fine. But anything, let's say your jar siphons, if it's less than half of the jar's liquid is gone, then you want to go ahead and get yourself situated with a lid. I've got my 4 jars lids. Yes, I do, right here. I've got my 4 jars lids in there. And I alternate how oops, my magnet came out of my wand. Well, that's not good. Okay. Get that lid right there. Get your flat on. Actually, before the flats, even though I know I wiped these, but I'm second guessing, so I'm going to go ahead and do it again. Talking and canning is different than just getting after it in your own kitchen. So I'm going to do this, and I'll bring you over to the canner and let you know exactly how many jars. 2 pounds. And if you're ever fighting with a ring at all, like this one, I'm just not sure. Oh, yeah. If you're not sure, or if it's a struggle to get that ring on for whatever reason, just go to a different ring, because it's not worth it. They should go on really smoothly. And these are 4 jars rings as well. Just finger tight. They have more metal to them. So that's about how full you want your jar. Trust me, it will end up looking like that, because they continue and they thicken the water that's in there. It's going into the canner that is simmering over here on the stove. I'm going to turn that down. I have it on my glass top stove, but it is on the super hot burner, which doesn't do the heat up, cool down that the other burners do. So there you go. That's why you can do that. And I'm using my smaller canner too, so I'm not using my big Bertha of a canner. But although I am going to try that at some point, since we have my other stove in the building. We just would have to get propane and hook it up. Half a teaspoon of salt. Get some water in there. Up to the inch of headspace. And we'll continue. And you might ask, why aren't you using the water you cooked the beans in? I don't want any impurities or any foam or anything like that in my beans, so I stick to the basics. And just, there we go. These beans, if you, let's say, okay, right in here, I take a bean, it's hot, you can't smash it. You can't smash it. It's firm. About halfway done. And you're thinking, they're going to be mushy. They are not mushy. These navy beans are my favorite thing in the world to use. Today I'll be making baked beans. That's what that pan right there is for. It's got sausage and onions, and it's going to be wonderful. Okay. And you'll notice your beans will absorb, as you're canning, it's going to start absorbing more water. So, okay, let's see if I can get this magnet back together. There we go. Okay. Did I wipe it? I know I did. Okay. Lid or flat and center it. Get yourself a ring, finger tight, hot jar going in the canner. I'll be back when these guys are venting or I'm putting them on. So I got 7 pints out of that plus some. So I'm going to cook the rest of the baked beans, or the beans, in with my other beans. They're going to be in the oven for a long time anyway. So now we want to get our lid on our canner. And you're just going to line up, there's arrows you want to line up. And you want the label of your canner facing outwards. That's the proper placement of the canner. And I'm not sure how I got it twisted around, but we're going to change it by lifting, not dragging. And I don't know, you can't see it, but it's a label that looks much like that. So you can line up your arrows. Everything is facing forward. And checked all my, there we go. I've checked the petcock. It's clear, so it can vent steam. This will come up to temperature and start venting a steady stream of steam out of there. We want to do that for 10 minutes. That's replacing everything in the canner. The air that's in the canner, it's replacing it with steam. And the steam under pressure is what gets hot enough to kill microorganisms, bacteria, botulism, as long as it's under that amount of pressure for a certain amount of time. So go opposites, and then once you've got them all on there, you can tighten them down, opposites again, and that evens out the canner lid. So we are on. I'm heating it up. As soon as it's venting, I'll start my timer, but make sure that you've got a good stream of steam coming out of there when you're venting. All right. I'm excited. We're going to have another batch of beans on the shelf. Guys, so I've got a steady stream of steam. It's kind of hard for you to see. I don't know what I could put up there that would make it easier to see, but maybe. But you can see how it's hitting that spatula. Yeah. That is a steady stream of steam. And I've got my timer set for 10 minutes, so in about 8 minutes approximately, it will be going off, and then we can put the weight on. And for my altitude, it is a 10-pound weight. So 10 pounds here, and then your dial gauge will run about 11 pounds on the dial gauge, 10 pounds on here. And what happens as soon as it comes up to 10 pounds inside the canner of pressure, right now it's replacing all the air with steam and getting all the temperature in between all the jars. When you put that 10-pound weight on, when it comes up to 10 pounds of pressure inside the canner and it goes over that 10 pounds, it releases by jiggling this weight. And you just want it to jiggle gently. If it's going too fast and furious, slowly turn your burner down. Find the sweet spot on your stove where you can absolutely predict how it's going to go, because it will prevent siphoning. It'll just make for a nicer canning session too, if you're not hearing that horribly frantic, I used to think that that's how it had to be, but it's not. So as you can over the years, you will figure all these things out. I did want to mention you need that plenty of water in those jars always in any kind of canning situation where it calls for water. That water is the catalyst that heats up in between all the products. So in between every bean, there's water moving around and getting very, very hot. That's what does the job. Should we dry can beans? No. This is what would be considered dry canning beans. You still have to soak them. You still have to pre-cook them. They don't come out mushy, trust me. And I have my baked beans are in the oven right now. I can't wait. They come out perfect, just like if you opened a can from the store. Now, I don't find that to be the case with pinto beans. For whatever reason, pinto beans and it seems like kidney beans that are absolutely my favorite, they just don't can up the same. And I'm not sure why. But if any of you have an answer for that, let me know in the comment section. We're going to continue this as soon as this stops venting. We're going to put that weight on. Okay, and we'll be back. Guys, so the canner came down off of pressure naturally, and I always like to prop this. Usually I just prop it like that, but instead of it slipping around and doing all that, I just stick a wooden spoon through there. Then it can release a lot of the excess steam and all that. I did can 4 pints of barbecue sauce because I had to make homemade barbecue sauce for the ribs that are in the oven, and I've got baked beans, and I needed to make some barbecue sauce. I can't make a small batch, so I made enough for probably 5.5 pints, but I know I'm going to use a bunch on the ribs. So while those are cooling, I am getting my canner. Now I have moved this from this burner. I just picked it up straight up off the counter and then moved it so it could cool down sufficiently. And now this is the only jar lifter I trust. But look remember I said they're going to absorb more liquid, and yes, they did. They are almost to the top. By the time this is done, and they are on our shelf for any length of time, you have a full jar of beans. But you also have beans that have liquid going all the way through. So I don't do like the instructions say and fill it to 1 inch of headspace, because you'll end up with a bean. It's going to be a solid wall of beans. It's just not my preferred method. So taking them out of the jar or out of the canner, and we are good to go. And leaving it in the canner after they've cooled down a little, or, come off of pressure. Look at that. Beautiful navy beans for my pantry shelf, for sure. Anytime you let them come down and cool a little bit more, you'll have less siphoning. They can still evaporate from under the lid until they seal. You may get more siphoning because they're still evacuating steam from under the lid. So just know that that's part of the process. I hope that this tutorial helped you in some way if you're thinking about canning beans. Like I said, navy beans are one of my favorites. And we have a beautiful pot of baked beans in the oven right now from Home Canned Beans. And again, if you want to see that recipe, let me know. Maybe that'll be one of my Make It March videos. Make It March is coming up, where we show you how to use all your home canned stuff that you just canned, and now how do you use it. That's crazy. As you can see, these are still boiling in the jar. You're going to leave these out on the counter until tomorrow. And then I will take the rings off, scrub the jars, and Here's one that's showing a little bit better. I mean, they're all boiling, but are they boiling for the camera? I don't know. This one is. Yeah. Scrub those jars, take those rings off and scrub them, but literally put a date and what it is and put it on your pantry shelf. Rotate the other ones forward. If you guys ever want to see a video of my new extended pantry, let me know in the comment section. All right, guys, if you stayed with me this long, I'm going to be really excited to see those comments. So I'll see you next time for another delicious recipe using navy beans. Bye. Thank you all for stopping by. I hope if you're interested in this sort of stuff, you subscribe.